Hi everyone. Today we're going to be going over Star Wars: A New Hope, watching some of the clips, talking about some of the things that makes this movie really great. Um, this is going to be a review, but really we're only going to be focusing on the positive and the just the quality things about the movie. Um, I will be going over the other Star Wars films in the future, so go ahead and stay tuned for those. But so we've already started the film. Darth Vader has invaded the Rebellion Forces ship. One of the things that I really like about the beginning of this film is just how menacing they made Darth Vader without really having to do anything. I mean, it's really the stormtroopers that come in, and they're the ones that are fighting the rebellion force and everything. And Darth Vader just simply walks in, but like his presence is just so strong that you're scared of him just simply by seeing him. So I think that really says a lot for what Darth Vader became presented as. So I think that's really cool. We move forward a little bit. So at this point, Luke has gotten the droids, C-3PO and R2-D2, basically fled the rebellion ship, and now they're just hanging out with Luke on Tatooine. Um, we've got some issues with Luke where he's trying to basically move past the farm life and he wants to join the academy. So um, you can really feel the internal divide of being stuck in a place that really you don't think that you have any way out of, and there's not really a whole lot going on. So I think that a lot of people would probably be able to associate with Luke, and things like that I think are just kind of universal to where they touch a lot of people. Um, so now we've moved on, and we've got the introduction of Obi-Wan Kenobi, also known as Old Ben at this point. So Old Ben is actually one of my favorite aspects about this movie. Um, he plays honestly a really pivotal part in guiding Luke, setting him on his new path of becoming a Jedi and whatnot. Um, it's really once Old Ben is actually brought into his life, things really completely change. I mean, the introduction of R2-D2 and C-3PO were kind of like the introduction to things changing. But yeah, once Old Ben is actually in his life is when everything's completely get turned around for Luke. Him learning that his dad was a Jedi Knight, the fact that he fought in the Clone Wars and was betrayed by Darth Vader. All of these things are really a lot of the building blocks of what becomes like Luke's foundational like character like throughout the movie. So um, yeah, and honestly, one of my favorite parts about the movie too is just Tatooine. Uh, I don't know. There's just something so simple but so beautiful about the desert in this movie. Even though I say that, obviously we just got to the point where you see something that's really not beautiful because it's really disturbing, honestly. Um, and that's what happens to his aunt and uncle, Luke's aunt and uncle. And so obviously that's a tragedy, but just the entire setting of the desert of Tatooine, the way that everything was shot, just really beautiful. Uh, Obviously, this is one of the best parts of the movie too. Is whenever Luke and Obi-Wan, C-3PO, and R2-D2 are going into Mos Eisley, there's just the villainy and the scum that hang out in Mos Eisley are just honestly cool in my mind. I mean, I know that the movie presents them as they're supposed to be bad and whatnot, but it's really hard to not just enjoy being around a bunch of almost like space gangsters. So that's pretty cool. Um, we're about to approach the introduction of Han Solo. So obviously one of the best characters in the entire movie. Just so cool. Obviously Chewie is really cool too, but I mean Han Solo is just really one of the best parts about the movie. Now, one of the funniest parts about this movie, like especially with the modern recreation of what George Lucas has done to edit the movie past what the original like source material was the fact that Jabba the Hutt is in this movie. Um, it's honestly pretty funny seeing like a digital recreation of him. Um, I'm not gonna say anything negative about how he looks or anything compared to obviously the puppet. Like I said, the this video is mainly honestly to shed light on just some of the things that I like about the movie, and um, it's also a way to just honestly inspire people to either rewatch this movie or to go ahead and check it out. Um, yeah, I mean, honestly, the Star Wars movies as a whole are just really cool, especially if you like sci-fi, just space action. I know obviously it's referred to as a space opera, and that is true, but um, a lot of what makes the movie as good as it is and the series as a whole is the fact that they're mostly just space adventure movies. Um, yeah, it's just honestly like a really cool subject matter, um, especially with the way that certain things were filmed. Like we just saw the destruction of Alderaan. Um, as tragic as that was, it's like us as the viewer, we are kind of on a divided side because it's like, yeah, we want to be obviously sad and mourn for Princess Leia's planet's loss, but on the same hand, it's like we are basically presented with cool like virtual effects, which ties into why I think that the film can be enjoyed by everyone. I mean, honestly, this film has it all. It's got action, it's got adventure, it's got comedy, it's got romance, um, it's got a coming of age story. It's got basically the essence of friendship. Whenever you've got the relationship between what goes on with like Luke and Han Solo, um, where it's like we see throughout the movie really, uh, they're not very interested in each other from the beginning. I mean, even whenever they first meet in Mos Eisley, Luke is basically saying that they're getting ripped off, and he's not even wanting to get involved with Han Solo. It's obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi that's pushing the fact that they need like a charter plane and everything. So, but as the story goes on, you get to see them grow, and so yeah, the movie just has really everything. Um, and so honestly, yeah, if you haven't already watched it, I would definitely recommend it. This video is more so for people who have seen it though. Like this obviously as we're going further along, it's gonna have spoilers and everything as far as what ends up happening in the story. But yeah, for anybody else, I mean, if you're just revisiting the movie or haven't seen it in a while, I think that even just simply watching clips like this can be a fun way to just basically take a stroll down memory lane. Um, yeah, there's just so much spectacle in this movie. I mean, even whenever you have simple things like what we just saw with Han Solo and them like shooting out the control panels in the empirical room, it's like you have a lot of just I don't know, like it's a lot of show. There's a lot of flashing lights and I think that those things are like super simple, and I think that they're kind of taken for granted where you think like, yeah, just simple like flashing lights and whatnot, like it's not really anything crazy to it. But whenever I was kind of cutting these clips together and whatnot, I noticed that there were a lot of things that I kind of took for granted, like the flashing lights, like gunshots and stuff, where it's like when you're watching the movie, you're not like explicitly necessarily paying attention to something like this. Like obviously I don't have any music playing over this video, so I think it allows you to pay more attention to just the actual spectacle of what's going on. I think it's a lot easier to focus on the little nuances with things like flashing lights, and it just makes the movie a lot more immersive. And yeah, looking at things like we just saw the stormtroopers and like Luke and Leia were shooting in the hallway. Um, you see things like smoke on the wall coming out whenever the gunshots are going off, and it's kind of like this entire spectacle that we're watching. But whenever we to sit there and look at it like this way, like without any like music playing and stuff. I think it's just simply a lot more of something that you can appreciate, like the little fine details and whatnot. Um, so this is also one of the coolest scenes. I mean, it's really honestly a crazy scene. Whenever Darth Vader basically kills Obi-Wan Kenobi, like that's how it's presented to us and everything. Um, Obviously, for everyone who has seen the movie, obviously he's not actually dead and he becomes a Force ghost and everything. But um, yeah, that was always such a crazy scene to me as a kid. Well, like whenever I first watched this movie, uh, not fully understanding why exactly he would do something like sacrificing himself. Like, there's a lot of just crazy things that just randomly occur in this movie, um, which adds to the fact that it is like a spectacle. Like, there's a lot of times where it like kind of seems like it's going for one thing, and then they kind of hit you with a curveball and go for something else. So it's really not just a completely straightforward movie. There's a lot of like twists and turns and stuff, and I think that makes it like really unique. At this point, basically the rebellion has gotten the plans for the Death Star, which this was also something. I mean, obviously I've seen this movie a lot, but re-watching it through the like whenever I was cutting these clips together, it's kind of honestly crazy how the movie kind of seems like once Obi-Wan dies and everything and they leave, it kind of seems like that would roughly be the end of that movie. And then they really quickly cut in the fact that the Death Star is now going to be like they're going to be attacking the Death Star. Uh, which honestly, like, I think it's really unique that the movie even like went that way. I think that a lot of movies, if they had this big like attack sequence and everything, and like honestly, this is the most major thing that happens in the film is the fact that the Death Star is destroyed. Uh, but it's just kind of like pushed to the end. Like, I think a lot of movies would make like the main emphasis on this being destroyed and would probably make the whole lead up like be pointed in that direction in the movie. So I think it's really interesting that they didn't do that and that they basically just had them like just go ahead and attack it at the end and destroy it. Um, I think it made it a lot better because it wasn't like this big drawn out like dramatic thing. It's honestly like a lot more adventurous, I think, with the people that are just going in. And even like you're about to see like with Luke right now where he's looking through the lenses and basically it's like his tracking system and he just basically bypasses that and ends up using the Force. Um, he just trusts his instincts to shoot into the cooling system and everything. Which I know that there's the whole joke about him bullseyeing Womp Rats with his like T16 and everything. Um, but yeah, I think that that's just one of the coolest things is how it this whole sequence just occurs. Like it's not all drawn out and super dramatic. Really, throughout the whole movie, they hadn't even been discussing the Death Star. It wasn't until like kind of midway through that they even realized that the Death Star was anything, and then they pretty quickly go and take it down. And then yeah, by this point we're already at the end. So yeah, they're already getting their medals and everything, and yeah, it's just a really good movie.